If you found this message, it is not by accident. Nothing about this moment is random, even if your mind tries to explain it away as coincidence. There is an urgency moving quietly through your spirit, a gentle but firm whisper that says, pay attention. Heaven does not shout, it nudges. And right now, that nudge is directed straight at your heart with a simple but powerful message: don't give up on this person. You may be tired, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually exhausted. The kind of tiredness that comes from hoping again and again, only to be met with silence. The kind that makes you question whether you imagined the connection in the first place. You've prayed, waited, tried to be patient, tried to be understanding. And still, nothing seems to move. No clarity, no reassurance, just space, just quiet, just unanswered questions. But silence does not mean absence. In the language of God, silence often means work is being done where you cannot see it. There are connections that are purely human. They are based on convenience, attraction, timing, or shared circumstances. And then there are connections that carry weight. They stretch your soul. They confront your fears. They awaken parts of you that had been dormant for years. These connections don't come to entertain you, they come to transform you. And transformation is rarely comfortable. If this love has pushed you to grow, to heal old wounds, to face yourself honestly, then it was never meant to be easy. God does not plant shallow things in deep hearts. What He places in your life with intention cannot be sustained by impatience. Right now, it feels like delay. But delay is not denial. Delay is preparation. You are being prepared, and so is the other soul connected to yours. You may not see what God is doing in them. You may not understand why they seem distant, confused, or unable to show up the way you hoped. But remember this: God often works on people in isolation. He removes distractions. He allows discomfort. He permits seasons where nothing makes sense, because clarity born too early would be wasted. What feels like rejection today may actually be protection. Protection from meeting too soon. Protection from loving without maturity. Protection from building something sacred on an unstable foundation. There are prayers you prayed that required time, not because God hesitated, but because rushing the answer would destroy the outcome. Some promises cannot survive immaturity. Some connections need both hearts to be refined before they can safely come together. Think about how gold is purified. It must go through fire. Not once, but repeatedly. Each time, impurities rise to the surface. The fire is not punishment, it is preparation for value. Love that carries divine purpose must go through a similar process. Not to break it, but to make it unshakable. You may feel foolish for still believing. You may feel weak for still caring. The world tells you to move on quickly, to replace, to distract, to numb. But heaven operates differently. God honors perseverance rooted in discernment. If your spirit still feels peace beneath the pain, if despite everything you sense that this connection is not finished, that intuition is not random. It is alignment. God does not play with hearts. He does not awaken deep love just to abandon it without reason. When He allows distance, it is because distance is currently serving the purpose better than closeness ever could. Right now, you are learning patience that strengthens character, not desperation that erodes dignity. You are learning how to trust without controlling, how to love without clinging, how to wait without losing yourself. These lessons are shaping you into someone capable of sustaining what is coming. Every tear you cried was counted. Every prayer you whispered when you felt unheard was recorded. Every night you questioned and still chose hope became part of the foundation. One day, the silence will make sense. You will look back and realize that if things had happened when you wanted, the timing would have been wrong. The wounds would have been open. The expectations misaligned. The love unprepared. What you thought was abandonment was actually alignment happening behind the scenes. There is a reason this connection refuses to leave your heart completely. There is a reason no substitute feels right. There is a reason your soul recognizes something eternal in it, even when your mind grows tired of trying to explain it. Souls recognize purpose before circumstances catch up. This does not mean you are meant to suffer endlessly. It does not mean you should chase, beg, or lose your sense of self. Divine love never asks you to abandon your worth. Waiting with God is not passive misery, it is active trust. It is choosing to grow instead of grow bitter. It is choosing faith over fear, even when answers are delayed. Sometimes God says, wait, not because the promise isn't real, but because you are becoming someone who can handle it. And when the moment comes, when the timing aligns, when healing has done its work, when both hearts are ready, you will understand. You will understand why it couldn't happen earlier. You will understand why certain doors stayed closed. You will understand why the distance was necessary. And the love that emerges will be stronger because it survived the waiting without being forced. Until then, your task is not to figure everything out. Your task is to remain faithful to what your spirit knows while continuing to live, grow, and become whole. Love with hope, but stand in dignity. Trust God's process more than your timeline. If this message found you, ask yourself honestly, does this connection push me closer to God, not further away? Does it challenge me to grow, not shrink? Does it awaken peace beneath the pain? If the answer is yes, then this love is more than human. It carries a divine fingerprint. And heaven's message remains clear: don't give up on this person. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because what God is shaping through this waiting season is bigger than a moment, it is eternal in its purpose. So breathe, trust, keep becoming. What feels unfinished is not forgotten. What feels silent is still being written. There will be days when your faith feels strong and steady, and days when it feels like it's hanging by a thread. Both are part of the journey. Faith was never meant to be a constant emotional high, it is a decision you make again and again, especially when emotions waver. Waiting does not mean you are weak. Waiting, when guided by God, is one of the strongest positions a soul can take. You may wonder why God would allow such a deep connection to exist without clarity. Why stir your heart so profoundly, only to leave you in uncertainty? But uncertainty is not cruelty, it is a classroom. In this space, you are learning to listen more than you speak, to trust more than you demand, to surrender more than you control. These lessons are quiet, but they are powerful. There is something sacred happening in the unseen. While you focus on what you lack, answers, reassurance, closeness, God is building endurance in you. He is teaching you how to stand without leaning too heavily on another human being. Not because love is unimportant, but because love that becomes an idol will eventually collapse under its own weight. God wants you whole, not half. He wants you anchored in Him before He anchors you to another soul. The person you are waiting on is also undergoing their own refining. Even if it looks like avoidance, confusion, or emotional distance, do not assume nothing is happening. God works differently in different hearts. Some people grow quietly, painfully, away from the eyes of others. Some need to confront shadows they have avoided for years before they can show up honestly in love. And God will not rush that process, no matter how much it hurts you to wait. This season is not about convincing anyone to choose you. Divine love never needs to be forced. If it is real, it will return freely, not under pressure, guilt, or fear. God is removing the need for you to chase so that, when the time comes, the connection is rooted in choice, not desperation. You may feel tempted to walk away just to protect yourself. That instinct is human, and sometimes stepping back is healthy. But there is a difference between surrender and abandonment. Surrender says, I release control, but I trust God with the outcome. Abandonment says, I give up because I no longer believe anything meaningful can come from this. Heaven's message is not telling you to cling, it is telling you not to harden your heart in disbelief. Protect your peace, yes. Guard your dignity, absolutely. But do not let disappointment turn into cynicism. Do not let waiting turn into bitterness. What you allow to grow in this season will determine the kind of love you experience later. Some people miss divine connections not because they weren't meant to last, but because impatience convinced them to quit too early. They assumed God was silent when he was simply working beyond their sight. They mistook delay for rejection and closed doors that were meant to open in the right time. If you are still here, still listening, still feeling something stir within you, it means this story is not finished. God does not leave his children without confirmation. He sends peace in the midst of uncertainty, gentle reminders when doubt grows loud, and moments like this, where something resonates so deeply that it quiets your fears, even temporarily. You are not being asked to put your life on hold. Continue living, continue growing, continue becoming the person you are called to be. Waiting on God does not mean freezing your life, it means moving forward without forcing outcomes. Trust that what is meant for you will meet you when both timing and hearts are aligned. There will come a moment when clarity replaces confusion. It may arrive suddenly or gradually, but when it does, it will feel right, not rushed, not forced, not fragile. It will feel grounded, steady, and safe. Love that comes from God brings peace, even when it is intense. Until then, let this season refine you. Let it teach you how to love without losing yourself. Let it deepen your reliance on God rather than on another person's actions. Let it strip away illusions and leave only truth. You are not forgotten, you are not foolish, and you are not alone. Heaven sees the full picture, even when you can only see fragments. Trust the one who placed this connection in your life in the first place. If God says, "Don't give up," it is because what he is building is still in progress, and what is being built in eternity is never wasted. There is a quiet strength being formed inside you now, even if it doesn't feel that way. It is the kind of strength that doesn't announce itself, doesn't demand recognition, and doesn't need validation from anyone else. It is forged in the moments when you choose trust over panic, surrender over control, and hope over despair. This strength will matter more than you realize when the waiting season ends. At times, you may question your own discernment. You may ask yourself whether you are holding on to something real or simply to a memory of what could have been. That question is natural, but notice the difference between obsession and resonance. Obsession drains you, shrinks you, and pulls you away from God. Resonance, even when painful, expands you, draws you inward, and ultimately leads you back to prayer and reflection. If this connection keeps bringing you closer to truth rather than further into chaos, that is not an illusion. God often uses delay to remove fantasy and reveal reality. In the beginning, we love the idea of someone, the potential, the dream, the imagined future. But in waiting, illusions fall away. What remains is either something fragile that cannot survive reality, or something solid that can endure time, distance, and silence. If what you feel has survived this long without constant reinforcement, it is not built on fantasy alone. There is also a lesson here about timing. Two people can be meant for one another and still be wrong for each other in a particular season. Love that arrives too early can become painful instead of powerful. God is not interested in giving you something that will break you. He is interested in giving you something that will bless you. That sometimes requires patience that stretches your understanding. You are being taught how to hear God's voice above your own emotions. Feelings are loud, unpredictable, and often demanding. God's guidance is quieter, steadier, and persistent. It does not pressure, it reassures. It does not rush, it aligns. Learning to recognize that difference is part of your spiritual maturity. This is also a season of release. Not release of love, but release of outcomes. When you stop needing a specific result to feel okay, you gain freedom. Freedom does not cancel destiny, it prepares you for it. God cannot entrust deep love to a heart that collapses without constant reassurance. He is teaching you how to stand firm even when answers are delayed. The person connected to you may not yet understand the depth of what exists between you. That does not invalidate it. Awareness comes in stages. Some souls awaken slowly, some need to lose other things before they recognize what truly matters. God will allow that loss if it is necessary for growth. He will not protect comfort at the expense of calling. It is also possible that God is testing alignment rather than attachment. Attachment says, I need this to be okay. Alignment says, I trust God whether this happens now, later, or differently than I expect. Alignment keeps your heart open without tying your worth to another person's readiness. Be careful not to interpret the waiting as punishment. God does not punish His children with longing. Longing is often an invitation to deepen prayer, to strengthen faith, to refine love. What you long for reveals what your soul is learning to value. When directed toward God, longing becomes sacred rather than painful. You are not meant to carry this season alone. Bring your confusion, frustration, and fatigue to God honestly. He is not offended by your questions. He is patient with your doubts. What matters is that you keep coming back instead of walking away hardened and closed. There will be moments when you feel tempted to settle for something easier, something that requires less faith. You may meet people who offer immediate attention, quick comfort, and surface-level certainty. But notice how your spirit responds. Temporary comfort cannot replace divine alignment. What is easy is not always what is right. If you choose to wait, do so with intention, not fear. Waiting in fear drains life. Waiting in faith strengthens it. Use this time to heal parts of yourself that this connection has revealed. Old wounds surface for a reason. God does not expose pain to shame you, He exposes it to heal you. One day, when clarity arrives, you will not feel desperate for it. You will feel ready, and that readiness will be the sign that the waiting accomplished its purpose. Whether the outcome looks exactly as you imagine or unfolds in a way you didn't expect, you will know that nothing was wasted. God does not waste seasons. He does not waste tears. He does not waste love. What is meant to meet you will come at the appointed time, not a moment too early and not a moment too late. Until then, remain open, remain grounded, remain faithful. The story is still being written, even in the quiet.